No, why would I hate when it locks my orientation properly. But here we are. Okay. I think this is good for now. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you're in the world. Welcome to my daily Welcome to my daily YouTube live. We are studying the book of Esther, and we are currently on chapter 5. So after today, we're going to be halfway through the book of Esther. So this is exciting stuff. We're moving through it very quickly. Let's recap a little bit because we had a long weekend. So let's get caught up a little bit. So we are left off where Esther and Mordecai are faced with a difficulty in which the new appointed person of power, Haman, is against all the Jews because he's feeling some type of way that Mordecai is not bowing down to him or acknowledging him even. And because of his ego being hurt by that, he not only wants to destroy Mordecai, but he also wants to destroy all of the Jews because he found out that Mordecai was a Jew. So it's uncovering the purpose of Queen Esther being in her position of power, in which she was a person of interest that would have a need to help with this situation because she herself is a Jew, unbeknownst to her king Xerxes. So they are currently in the discussion of how they're going to handle the situation, and it is now Queen Esther's time to take action. Mordecai made that clear to her in their discussion, in which they went back and forth a little bit, and then Mordecai basically said to her, like, listen, if you remain silent, if you don't take action, that may not be a good thing in your best interest, because God's going to deal with you whether you like it or not, and this situation is going to also affect you. Just as all the Jews are going to be destroyed here, you're one of us too, so don't forget where you came from. And Esther was like, say no more. I'm going to confront the king. I'm going to bring this up and see what I could do, basically. Although Esther does have some kind of fear that maybe King Xerxes may not be receptive to her cry for help, because for some reason King Xerxes has not called to see Queen Esther in 30 days. So that is the current dilemma. Let's go ahead and get into it. Chapter 5. Let me make sure I'm on the right page. Okay, so chapter 5 is entitled Esther's Request to the King. On the third day of the fast, Esther put on her royal robes and entered the inner court of the palace, just across from the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne, facing the entrance, when he saw Queen Esther standing there in the inner court. He welcomed her and held out the golden scepter to her. So Esther approached and touched the end of the scepter. I don't know if you guys remember, but that was Queen Esther's biggest fear, was that he wasn't going to extend the gold scepter, because that would mean that she would be sentenced to death, because she brought herself forward in front of the king without permission. But he bypassed that, and all of her fears are ridden so far. So then the king asked her, "What do you want, Queen Esther? What is your request? I will give it to you, even if it is half the kingdom." I'm sure that felt very good for Esther, because not only did he reach out the golden scepter, but he's also saying, whatever you're going to ask, I got you. And Esther replied, "If it please the king, let the king and Haman come today to a banquet I have prepared for the king." The king turned to his attendants and said, Tell Haman to come quickly to a banquet as Esther has requested. So the king and Haman went to Esther's banquet. You see how quickly the king was to act in Esther's favor. It appears that maybe Esther didn't really have anything to be worried about. It seems like she kind of has him right where she needs him. And he is ready to comply with whatever she says. So he is already being compliant with her requests. And while they were drinking wine, the king said to Esther, "Now tell me what you really want. What is your request? I will give it to you, even if it is half the kingdom." Again, when things are repeated in the Bible, that means that they're important. So the fact that he is saying this again is to show us that Esther should have had the confidence in this scenario to be able to ask what the request was. There wasn't really a reason to be in fear. Esther replied, "This is my request and deepest fear. If I have found favor with the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my request and do what I ask, please come with Haman tomorrow to the banquet I will prepare for you. Then I will explain what this is all about." So now she has the king right where she needs him to be. Haman's there at her request. This is exactly the plan that she had preconceived. But when it's all said and done and it's time and they showed up, she kind of chickens out of saying what her request is and vouching for the Jews. Instead, she says, "Tomorrow, I'm going to do the same exact thing. We're going to run this back, and then I'm going to tell you what this is all about." So I kind of interpreted this in one way, but then when I researched it, I found that this could be interpreted in two different ways. One is she had some kind of doubt and she was stalling. And that could be for many reasons, of course, but the fact that there was no reason for her to really have any kind of doubt makes it more appealing to another explanation in which she had already devised a plan, and in which she told all of her followers or the people that were under her that they, not followers, but all the other Jews that were waiting for her to lead them, that they were to fast for 3 days. And because of that, perhaps maybe it was not the third day yet, so the clarity that fasting provides had not taken its place yet. So perhaps she was stalling because she wanted to complete the fast. And if any of you have read the Bible before, you understand how important a fast is in the Bible. It is a kind of like a method in order to connect with the Lord and to understand the Lord's will for certain situations. It's kind of like, I'm going to pray on it. I'm going to fast and pray on it. So maybe they didn't have the clarity as to how God wanted them to handle the situation. And with faith in God, to stall something as big as this, that could possibly show that her faith was a lot bigger than we think it is. But regardless, she pushed back the banquet to the next day. So then it says, Haman's plan to kill Mordecai. Haman was a happy man as he left the banquet, but when he saw Mordecai sitting at the palace gate, not standing up or trembling nervously before him, Haman became furious. However, he restrained himself and went on home. Then Haman gathered together his friends and Zeresh, his wife, and boasted to them about his great wealth and his many children. I just want to stop there and make one comment, because it seems like Haman's somebody that's very irrational and very impulsive. So when he's leaving the banquet, he sees Mordecai sitting there, and Mordecai does not stand up or tremble nervously before him. What does that mean? That means despite his plan to annihilate the Jews, Mordecai's not even flinching. Mordecai's not paying him no mind, and that's not of usual of anybody, really. If somebody threatened your life and the lives of everybody of your heritage, then you know, I would think naturally there would be some kind of fear, but the fact that Mordecai was just, and what? That really made Haman so furious and shake in his boots, even more so than Mordecai himself. So the fact that he was able to restrain himself kind of seems like there was some kind of divine intervention that allowed him to restrain himself, because Haman doesn't seem like the type to be able to restrain himself. So this whole story seems like it was really led for the perfect timing for things to occur when they needed to occur. And it kind of seems like God had his hand in this whole situation, because Haman naturally would have went off of his rocker if he had seen Mordecai still not acknowledge him, despite his efforts for him to be acknowledging him. So he was able to restrain himself, and it also could have been because he was on such a high, and we're going to get into that in further reading. So he gets to his house, and he gets to his wife and his friends, and Zeresh is his wife, and he's boasting to them about his great wealth and his many children. He bragged about the honors the king had given him and how he had been promoted all of the other nobles and officials. Then Haman added, "And that's not all. Queen Esther invited only me and the king himself to the banquet she prepared for us, and she has invited me to dine with her and the king again tomorrow." Then he added, "But this is all worth nothing as long as I see Mordecai the Jew just sitting there." Wow. At the palace gate. So Haman's wife, oh wait, let's stop right there. So you mean to tell me that you're boasting, you need to, what does this sound like? This guy totally sounds like a textbook narcissist. So all of these things he has going for him. He's been promoted in his position. He is rich and he has a great family and whatever. So it seems like he has it all. But none of that matters to him because one person has threatened his ego. One person had made him feel insignificant. That's a lot, right? So, it said, so Haman's wife Zeresh and all his friends suggested, set up a sharpened pole that stands 75 feet tall, and in the morning ask the king to impale Mordecai on it. When this is done, you can go on your merry way to the banquet with the king. This pleased Haman, and he ordered the pole set up. So remember that the banquet is going to be the time where Esther is going to reveal her plan. But she pushed back revealing her plan because of maybe one of two reasons. Maybe she had doubts, she needed to buy some time, or because she is being very strategic on timing. She needs God to guide her through this situation. And it appears that God is guiding her through this story, especially as we read further. But it's now Zeresh, his wife, Haman's wife, had kind of set up something to kind of derail the plan, because now she's saying, before you go to the banquet, go ahead and kill Mordecai and let's just get this over with, and then that way you can go to the banquet happy and be on your merry way, because really the only thing that's not allowing you to be happy is getting rid of this guy that's threatening your ego. So the friends and family seem to be enabling Haman and all of his arrogance and his ego issues. So I had a couple notes about that, and this is just further in my research. I loved this quote that I found. So it says, when you enable your loved one's pride, you do so to their detriment. So it appears that Zeresh and the friends of Haman are setting up their loved one for failure because they are completely enabling his behavior, rather than saying, why are you so worried about this one person that is threatening your ego when you have all of these other things going for yourself? Focus on yourself, and none of that other stuff is important. But also, the reason why Haman is even so bothered by this, I think, is a big lesson to us, because it goes to show how the things of the world, the approval of our peers, really don't make us, and they don't break us. I mean, they could break you, but they can't ever make you. So as much as approval that he's received in the kingdom, because he wasn't approved of by Mordecai, who is just a mere, person, that completely set off all of his accomplishments. And we all kind of have that in us. We all have that in us to kind of not be satisfied by the acceptance of our peers, and in general of the things of the world. No matter what status you're placed in, no matter what promotions you receive at work, and no matter what kind of positions of power that you're put in, you're still going to have this empty feeling when all of your foundation is based off of worldly things, because a part of our heart belongs to our Creator. It belongs to our foundation and what really does make us what we are, and what our purpose really is, which is followers of Christ, or just children of Christ in general, because some people are not followers of Christ. And often those people that are not following Christ, or not following the Creator, are going to constantly spend the rest of their life trying to find what they're here for. And they're never going to find it, because your purpose can only be found from the one that created you in the first place. So, I want to read one more thing that I liked. And it said that, hold on. So this is in the Enduring Word. This is the notes that the pastor had put for chapter 5, and I found his notes very good. He said, "Miserable human, honored by both the king and queen of Persia, yet the disapproval of one man makes him feel worthless. This is an accurate description of how empty the rewards of the world are," which is exactly what I just touched on. And it said, Haman's deep-seated insecurities and need to be honored by everybody means that he can never be happy. God meant this hunger for acceptance in each of us to be ultimately fulfilled in Jesus Christ, because we are accepted in the beloved. That's Ephesians 1:6. Accepted before God because of who we are in Jesus. Interesting. So that is chapter 5. And let's discuss it. So I'm going to open up the discussion to the comment section now. And if there's anything that you would like to add, I did see some comments going while I was talking, so I'm going to try to scroll as much as I can. And let's get into it. Hold on. Oh, no, I can't find the comments. Okay, here we go. Snate says, "Ooh, that's a gem. Check your foundations. Haman has built his house on the sand and not a solid rock. I really think that's why he could not find the inner peace he longs for." Absolutely. Pride is the biggest theme coming from Haman. You see humility and faith in Esther and Mordecai. Yep. I think pride also set up the King Xerxes in this situation too. He is prideful. He shows a little bit of humility when it comes to Esther, but I really think that that humility comes from God humbling him enough. I feel like that's God's hand as to why he's humbled just enough to have a weakness towards her. He's very, very soft when it comes to Esther, really. Even Esther feels like she's scared that King Xerxes is not going to be receptive to her and what she has to say, but he seems to be. That's just like kind of like his kryptonite. Haman, like many, could never seem to ease and soothe his indignations. He needed to be complimented with bows, narcissistic indeed, totally. He's looking for the peace and joy only God can bring, but in all the wrong places, putting himself immutably at the center of his world. Right. Okay, Christian. Christian says, Haman has a prideful heart. He first showed it by wanting the servants to bow and pay homage to him. Absolutely. Now in this chapter, God despises a pride, and we've seen that he had done to, we've seen what he had done to kings and empires throughout the Bible for being prideful. Yep. I feel is not going to be any different for Haman. Yeah, and I can't wait till we get to the end of the chapter or the end of the book so that we see what happens to him, because I think we already know that this story is going to have a point to it, right? We just don't know what it is yet. Well, I do. I read it before, but stay with it. Okay, let me scroll to the bottom, actually. Okay, and I think that's it for your comments. I believe I read everybody's. But thank you guys for tuning in. I think that we're all on the same page with this for the most part, at least those of you that have commented. This book is pretty easy for us to comprehend, which I enjoy and I appreciate. So if anybody else has any further questions that maybe you didn't have any clarity in, feel free to put it in the comment section when I post this to my feed. And other than that, we will gather again tomorrow for chapter 6. Thanks again, and I'll see you tomorrow.